What's up, guys? It's Brandon Flash. Today you're joining me in Rockland, Maine, of all places, and we're at Tesla's first NEVI-funded Supercharger site, which is pretty exciting. I'm going to do a full site tour and walk you through some of the things that I think they could improve. So as I mentioned, this is Tesla's first NEVI-funded Supercharger site, which means that they got funding as part of the federal government NEVI program, or National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program. And the NEVI program was part of the bipartisan infrastructure law that was signed into law, I believe, in 2022. So there are some very clear requirements as part of this program that I think Tesla is maybe not so compliant with. But at a bare minimum, you need at least 450 kilowatt DC fast chargers capable of doing that simultaneously on the same site. This site has 8 stalls. They're up to 250 kilowatts max. However, they're fed by 2 version 3.5 supercharger cabinets that are up to 387 kilowatts, roughly. Actually, probably closer to 360 kilowatts because there's 387 kVA each. Which means that when this site is at full capacity, you cannot get 150 kilowatts minimum. You're actually getting about 90 kilowatts. However, Tesla has made some claims that they have some load balancing and prioritization in place that gives priority to the NEVI-funded sites. However, if you're at this site, you have no way of knowing that. So let me give you a full tour. I'd love to hear what you guys think down below, whether that Tesla is skirting around the laws and the requirements. And I will cite some legal requirements down below from the federal register, the federal laws. But let me give you a tour. So we are at a Hannaford, which is kind of just a grocery store, supermarket in the Northeast. Definitely popular in Maine. Great spot for a supercharger right off of US Route 1, which is a pretty popular route along the Maine coast if you're going from Portland all the way up to Canada. So good spot for definitely needed charging here. I've been here in an EV before, and before this was open, it was a bit of a challenge. Luckily, there's a fair amount of level 2 around. As I always like to start, we're going to start at the upstream infrastructure. So here we have the 1000 kVA grid transformer. So this is taking the high voltage or medium voltage from the grid, stepping it down to 480, 277, as you can see here. So we have the high voltage there, 12,470 volts, down to 480, 277 there. So pretty normal there. This is a little bit oversized for the site, but that's totally fine. Sometimes that comes down to transformer availability rather than right sizing. You step it up a little bit or you step it down a little bit, and it's good enough. In here we have the metering. So there's going to be a utility meter in there. This is kind of a closed cabinet, which is fairly typical. Especially in areas that have more extreme climates. This is completely separate. This is a bottle recycling cashback thing. And then over here we have a Lincoln Electric EV1 cabinet. So this is a 1200 amp main circuit breaker. So it has a 1200 amp main in it, and then it has 2 600 amp branch circuit breakers that are feeding the 2 supercharger cabinets here. We also have a site controller in this box. We also have a MIMO antenna up there for Wi-Fi and for cellular. And then here, these are the pretty normal that if you've watched before, you're pretty familiar with. These are version 3 supercharger cabinets. More specifically, version 3.5. And what that means is that it's basically the same as the version 3, just with some very slight internal improvements. But we still have, most importantly right here, output voltage range 0 to 500 volts. And that's going to be a point of contention here because I do not think that that is in the spirit of NEVI. I'll cite the specific text down below, but when it comes down to it, 250 to 900 volts is required per federal law for NEVI-funded sites, and Tesla is not in compliance with that. And I think that is a load of baloney that they're getting away with this. Also, as I mentioned, 387 kVA or 360 kilowatts roughly. And each one of these is feeding 4 of these dispensers. There is a DC link between the two cabinets, so they can share across the entire site. So it does work quite well, the power sharing, I will say. However, there's not enough power here for this to be truly NEVI compliant. Let's get into the dispensers a little bit. So we have normal version 4 posts. So this is what I would consider to be a version 3.5, version 3 plus, depending on what you want to call it, site. And some differences here compared to other version 4 sites. So we have these signs added here. So there are 2 of these. I'll show you another one in just a moment, giving very clear instructions on how to use the CCS method. I haven't tried this texting method. I might have to try that before I take off. Unfortunately, I'm not here in an EV to fully try out this site, but I was in the area, so I had to show you guys. But basically, you follow the instructions as we've done before. So you press and hold the button for 2 seconds, and then you push in and pull out, and then you can activate with that QR code. And I just wanted to show you guys the payment terminals here as well. So we'll take the CCS adapter out, press and hold, you hear a click, push up, pull down, and there you have the magic dock. It's very slick, I must say. Same part number as we've seen before there. And then this is a Pater Apollo payment terminal. None of them are functioning. I'll show you guys that in a minute. And this one's just kind of chilling. It's not fully attached or anything. Really not seeming that well built. We'll put this back. And then there you can see the version 4 handle, immersion cooled. And that QR code is now useless. On the next post, the screen protector was never even peeled on this Pater. Nothing works on there, doesn't do anything. This is pretty interesting. I think this is just an error, but it says no charging this side because someone put this sign on backwards, because the backside says EV charging only. So it's just attention to detail, I think, that is lacking here in Tesla's NEVI approach. Same thing, Pater doesn't work. Pater doesn't work. Pater doesn't work. Also, I stand corrected, there were actually 3 of these signs, so that's pretty good. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. And doesn't work. And just to be clear, that's not a fault of Pater. Those do work on other chargers. This is a lack of setup on Tesla's part. This is also pretty interesting that they've got going on here. This is probably the most elaborate ADA curb setup I've maybe ever seen. I guess for access path, but it seems a little bit unnecessary, I guess. But I think this may have been to allow someone to go on the backside to move the cable. It's a very interesting site design. There they have some proper signage for an ADA stall. Designed for disability access used last, which is the proper way to do this. It does not cite the ADA stall state statute, which this is the proper way to do it, because otherwise you deter non-handicapped people from using this even at a full site. So this is a use last, which means that this stall can still be used. So that's proper. And then we also have another one of these little pay signs. So I'll definitely have to text that and try that out. So I just tried texting this pay to that number. And all it does is have you confirm language, and then it just sends you the link to the generic Tesla charging site, which then can let you start charging. But there's no way to actually pay via text. So I'd say that's maybe not in the spirit of it either. But overall, I mean, this is a nice looking site. The version 4 Supercharger posts are pretty nice looking. We've got a Aruba access point up there as well. I just don't think that this is in the spirit of NEVI. And yes, spirit of NEVI and the letter of the law are actually in alignment in this case. Some states have changed their requirements and removed the 250 to 900 volt requirement, and only required that you are able to do 150 kilowatts at any intersection of the voltage curve or voltage current curve, basically, and at any crossover, which is just insane, because anyone that understands EV charging knows that in order to charge an EV, you have to actually have variable voltage. And there are some vehicles that would be able to start charging at below 500 volts, but actually have to cross 500 volts in order to keep charging to a higher state of charge. Some examples of that are from Kia Hyundai with the Genesis G80, the EV9, and then there are some others on the market that do that as well. So in reality, this is not in the spirit of NEVI. It does not support full high voltage vehicles. And there are a lot of vehicles on the road, Taycan, EV9, EV6, Ioniq 5. Any over 500 volt vehicle will not be able to get 150 kilowatts or higher here because Tesla is not compliant with the spirit of NEVI. And I don't really know how they got away with this in the state of Maine, maybe some aggressive lobbying, but it's really a shame because NEVI should be funding hardware that is actually future-proofed, not that is just designed for today or just designed to be optimized to the vehicles of one manufacturer. We'd love to hear what you guys think. Comment down below. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys on the next one.